have to come with a large disclaimer, like a pack of cigarettes, in order to do this. I don't feel comfortable doing this without saying a couple of things. I don't see our buddy Dale here, but one of them is, somebody was asking a question to Fiona last month, and Dale muttered under his breath, "It's not illegal." And I thought that was a great way to say, these are suggestions, you have suggestions, you have suggestions. There's a lot of people in here who've been writing a long time. Maybe a lot of us have some great habits, and maybe we have some bad habits. I've got a lot of both. These things that I want to say, I think, are just probably somewhat commonsensical, somewhat spiritual, but they matter to me, and by no means should they be replacing what it is that you think, I guess, about the process. I would just say, put your basket open, and if you see a couple of things that matter to you, good for you. This is going to go probably 10 minutes, and then I wanted to play a song. I think songwriting is different for me now at 56 than it was at 30. I think I was trying to tell something at 30, and at 50, somewhere in my 40s, I started to explore, and I started to enjoy not knowing a character, but getting to know them through the process of writing. Like, I started writing songs thinking I had a complete thought I wanted to say, if that makes sense. And I don't have complete thoughts today. I like the fact that there's a lot more that can be said about a good character that I've stepped on in a song that I'm writing today, and I have to leave it off. It's almost like talking too much at a date. You have to sometimes, not sometimes, often, if not always, less is more. I try to write songs with a lot of space, and I think that's a hard thing to do. That's sort of like learning when to shut up, like in a social setting. And for me, a nervous cat, it's taken me a long time to figure that out. But one of the things that really matters to me is this sense of space and this sense of mystery. That I was recording my second album at Joe Coolman's studio, and he said, "Rick, I've heard you play a song of mine. It's called 'Who's Your Daddy?' I've heard you play that song 12 times. I think maybe 12 times, and I still don't know what the hell it means." And there was something about that that made me incredibly happy. You know, and part of it was this rebellion that, well, I don't want you to know everything about this guy anyway. He's not for you to own. He's not to be enslaved by you. There's just a piece of this guy that gets kind of spat out in a couple of verses, and the rest of it's got to be, you've got to figure it out. And I think a good song allows us as listeners to go, damn, like, do you think they got back together again in the end? And I think that's as much as what doesn't get said is as powerful as what does get said in a good song. At least a song that speaks to me. And I don't write all my songs with that much space in mind, but I try to. So that's one of those things that goes in the big caveat. And I think there's lots of different ways to write songs. I've known Steve for 20 years, over 20 years. I've known Mike Strauss, another great songwriter in Charlotte, for that long. Met him at the same open mic, and I would say, Steve and Mike and I, pretty odd and different cats. We write very differently, and yet somehow we ended up in the same space on a Thursday night at an open mic. And I think there's something powerful to be said about that. There's a place for you as a songwriter. Nobody writes and plays and sings just like you. And I don't write anything for anybody to give me $20 for. I'm not selling any of this stuff, you know. So I don't really give a rat's tail if it makes money or not. I think it's completely somebody else's gig, and it's fine if that's what their gig is. But for me, I want to have a spiritual relation. I want to have a maternal relationship with the character that I'm singing about, so that when I sing it again, I can deliver this guy to you in a way that says, I give a crap about him. All right? I'm pulling for him. I hope you listen, and maybe you'll pull for him too. That's really why I write songs. So I wanted to say that. There's a lot of stuff in here I'm not going to read. When it comes to the first section where it says who, the obvious characters of the protagonist, the main character, which is oftentimes the person who's speaking in the song. In the lyrics of Step Inside This House, this guy Clark saying, hey, come on in. Look at this thing on the wall. Look at this piece of broken glass. Look at this old jacket. That's me. And the whole character, the whole song is developed based on a series of objects that he is telling you about, first person. Not all songs have to be written. In fact, I don't seem to write a lot of songs like that, but I like them. There's the antagonist, which is oftentimes not the antagonist. It's not the person against the protagonist. It's oftentimes the wife of the guy who's struggling. And she just sees the same situation, but from a different perspective. I like songs that flip perspective. So one of those songs talks about the verses is the narrative voice telling him about this guy called Bruce Springsteen, who's a janitor, superintendent of an apartment complex. It's pretty gutsy to write a song called There's Another Bruce Springsteen. I love this. I love this song. If you haven't heard this song, go home before you go to bed tonight. Go pull the song up on YouTube. It's a beautiful song. But all the verses are the narrator talking about this guy over here called Bruce Springsteen. He chases rats with a 2x4. He's got an old guy's leg from Maria on the second floor. Beautiful. But he's talking about a guy over there. And then the chorus is the guy. And I love the fact that you can shapeshift in songs. You're not committed to being one guy, one person, the whole song through. And I like songs that kind of give you those points of reference from two different people's perspectives. So under cast it says shapeshifter. That's sort of what I mean. You're allowed to, I have to remind myself I'm permitted to change my perspective within the song. There are archetypes. And I'm an addictions counselor by trade. Don't hold it against me. But there are family roles and the family system kind of concept that comes out in addiction treatment. If you ever had a loved one who's been in addiction treatment and recovered, you might have heard some of these archetypes. They're started to be listed at the bottom of page 1. Problem child, interesting, addict, identified patient. This is a perspective that we can write from, but it's not the only one. There's some really kind of telling character names in these descriptions. Black sheep, martyr. Sometimes called the truth teller. I love that. In family systems, the guy that gets the bad rap sometimes is the one that's willing to stand up on a box and say, hey Dad, it's not okay. That's not okay. You need to stop drinking. You need to stop hitting Mom. And that boldness of character sometimes can come out easier in a song than it can in a real life conversation. And I love truth tellers. I love truth tellers. Hero, caretaker, good child, invisible child. The one that tries to be good and quiet and doesn't cause any trouble, because my brother, the black sheep, that's who I was in the family system. I was the bad one, the big mouth. My baby brother was the one that always tried to be the good kid. He always tried to follow the rules, and it made him a nervous wreck growing up. But it's an interesting perspective to be the good child, or to try to be good all the time when there's a part of you that wants to just punch somebody in the throat. That's a pretty cool perspective to have in songwriting or in storytelling. Is your character a hybrid? Is he a mixture of one of these two? Is he being heroic in this verse, but he's also kind of a scoundrel? He's been a scoundrel in the past. I love the complexity of us. What does Tracy and I say? We say we're mostly good. And to somebody from the outside, that sounds like a dig. But the reality is it's a three-dimensional view of the way I see her and the way she sees me. God help us. I know you're mostly good, but it's my way of saying I'm choosing not to bring your neck tonight. And I love the complexity of that. To be able to write a character that has both good and not so redeemable qualities in the same song. Like, that's pretty good dimensionality if you can pull that off in a song. So I look for characters that have effed up, that have screwed up, that are trying to put it back together again, and you start to see shards of redeemable qualities shine through them. They're not all bad. That's my favorite kind of cat, man. That's my favorite kind of song that is a guy that is mostly good or mostly bad, but you know, that he's not all bad. There's some pieces of light that can come through. And I was thinking about, is your character transforming? Was he this way, but he's trying to be this way? And you can see these archetypes as kind of chapters in some of our lives. I'm a very different person than I was in 23. I wouldn't have survived, thank God. And I sure as hell wouldn't have had some of the relationships I've had if I was 23, acting like 23 today. So I've changed. I'm changing. And your characters should, if they're reflective of real life, they should change too. When I was thinking about hybrids on the ride up, I was thinking of a Mark Cohn song, The Things We've Handed Down. And it's a song about his daughter or his son who's about to be born. I don't know if anybody knows the song. But he says, are you a devil? Are you a poet or an angel, a devil or a clown? Or some strange new combination of these things we've handed down? So here's a new character coming into the world, a baby child. And we don't really know what she's going to be, but mom and dad are like this, mom's like this sometimes, and dad's like this. You're going to be like her or me, or some mixture of the two. And I think that's just a beautiful way to kind of give us dimensionality, give characters a dimensionality, to say we're a mixture of, obviously, the mom and dad, but my boss and my old lady, this mixture, this hybrid. The journey, the why, kind of the what am I talking about is where is this character going? What is he on? Why is he moving? What motivates him to move? What's motivating him to move? And I don't like songs that have kind of characters that sound like they're all done. They're finished works of art or pieces of, we had it on Mount Rushmore. I want to think that you're changing, and I want to think that I'm changing for the better, hopefully. But I like to see that motion or change within a character. What's the struggle or the conflict? What is the character pushing up against, or what's pushing against the character that creates tension in the song? And then, what does the character not know that you know as the writer? Or what does the narrative voice know that the protagonist doesn't know, the main character doesn't? So I kind of equate that to the way we watch a horror film, and we know what's going to happen in about 10 frames. That guy's going to open the door, and then somebody's going to come out with a hatchet and split his head open, and we're going to go, no, don't open the door. But he doesn't know he's about to step into peril. But you know, because you're writing, you know, and how do you convey that tension between what you know, either as a narrator or the writer and the main character? I think there's power in that gap between what you know and what they know. I look for characters that have kind of a uniqueness about them, that say things that no one else says, that are odd or eccentric. I think those characters have the most color and depth and give us the most to hang on to and listen to. A character that said the same old things, I love you, baby. You know, I've heard that song 1,000 times, and I'm very likely to skip over that line to hear what else he's going to say, because I've heard that. I mean, I've heard that. I've seen that, you know, the old joke about the country song, and you play the song backwards, and the guy gets his dog back, and his truck does, you know, starts, you know, like, There's a reason why that joke works, because there's so many songs out there that are kind of hackneyed and carved, stay in a carved path and don't go off the road. I love characters that have unique expressions, and I think it's a little ballsy to have to go off the road, right? Off of a groove, a familiar groove. It's safe, but it's a little stale for me to hear a character say something and you kind of know what's coming next. Like, let them go off the road a little bit. Let them surprise you. So I think that's really important too. I think that's probably about as much as I want to talk about with regard to this. What I'd like to do is play a song in Tracy. So this is our friend Phil.